Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm Teresa Bruno, the host of the Soul Talks podcast. I started this podcast not only to tell my own survival story and what I've learned along the way, the tools that have helped me kind of get out of, the deepest parts of grief and sorrow, but also to share the stories of others, because I feel like when we share our pain, we lessen its power and we help each other find courage to heal. I'm back again today with Dr. Katie Eastman, our third and sadly last week, just for now maybe, if I can persuade her to come back again. She's just got so many attributes to her name, but the thing that we've talked about most is her role as a master grief coach. She's a psychotherapist, 35 years experience. She's an author. She's a podcaster. She's a humanitarian, and it goes on and on and on. But join me today. We're going to talk more about what Dr. Eastman is up to. Hi, Katie.
Hi. It's wonderful to be back.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about grief the last 2 weeks, and you've made me cry a whole lot. And gosh, you've given me some just profound things to hang on to, for our listeners to hang on to explore really big, deep things. And so I want to thank you for that. I want to spend a little time talking about what you're up to. I know Elizabeth Hamilton Guarino just a little bit. I've been on her podcast and she's been on mine, and read the Success Guidebook and the Change Guidebook. And, you two women just have got fire happening in the writing world, the podcasting world, you name it.
Yeah.
So how many books have you co-written with Elizabeth?
Well, I've co-written one so far, Percolate,
right.
Which went on to be a bestseller, which most of what we wrote in her pool, or we conceived of in her pool. And then the book that we're writing now is called The Peace Guidebook. Right. And it is to give people practical tools for hope, healing, and for harmony. We really want to bring the world together. And our goal is to bring 1 million people to commit to living peacefully. And it is so much fun to work with Elizabeth, because she's the only human being on earth that's ever taken away my title of being the Energizer Bunny, because she's the Energizer Bunny on steroids. And
I think you both are. Yeah, I would
together?
say you're both more like Tigger bouncing on your tails. Just joy, energy, joy. How did the two of you meet? How did you come together to collaborate?
I was in a gym at 4 a.m. in Maine, and I was reading a magazine called Best Ever You, and I said, "Ooh, I really like this. I really like what they have to say. I'm going to contact this person." And that was it. We were off and running at that point, and we had so much sharing of ideas. We just were like, so we kind of worked with Best Ever You together for a while, and then life came up, and we wrote Percolate, and I ended up coming to the West Coast. Things changed, and so we kind of went our ways for a while, and we lived our lives, and now we're back together, better, stronger, wiser, and full of a lot of ideas. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, so you have the Real Life podcast.
Yes.
And then you have all these collaborative writings that you do. Do you have a sense of what you really want, your collective voice, you and Elizabeth? Do you have a sense of, I know you're talking about this book, the Peace Guidebook, that you're writing together now, and you want to have 1 million people commit to living peacefully. It's incredible. Sign up.
Yeah,
sign up.
Please. Good.
But do you have a sense of, do you have this pathway in front of you of, this is our collective voice in the world? This is what we're trying to do.
Both Elizabeth and I share a passionate desire for peace, but not when, and it's been so interesting when we ask people, what do they think of when they think of peace? They think of external peace, but they forget the inside part. Peace comes from within us. Peace comes from how you live your life. If you're not peaceful within yourself, if you haven't discovered a way and a pathway to inner peace, then there's no way you're going to exude that to others, and that ripples out to the world. So it starts with us. And Elizabeth and I have both, in our childhood, we were both very sensitive kids who we were always the kid helping the other kid. And so when, as adults, our message is we want everyone to discover their inner peace so that they will outwardly give to other people, and then the world can change. That's our mission.
So
We
do
want to
you
change the world.
well, I love that. I'll change it with you. Um, do you discover inner peace or do you create inner peace as you evolve or more aware or on a spiritual path?
You practice inner peace.
Okay.
We have a part of the book where we talk about when we lose our peace, when we lose our blank in situations where we come in touch with our own triggers and we get angry and we get reactive, and none of us ever do that, right? And so we honestly talk about our vulnerabilities, and people are, again, I'll say, people are not comfortable with discomfort. But if you don't
True.
dig and understand yourself and your own triggers, you can't be peaceful.
Right.
We have to start with us. So we are really change makers. We want everyone to understand themselves so they can give back to others and change the world.
So talk me through that. It's the perfect pitch and I love it. But break it down for me.
Well, we call our podcast Real Life because
Right.
we're real. It is a no fluff zone. We don't allow fluff, which means we are honest with ourselves, with each other, and we ask ourselves internal questions all the time. Like, when something happens and I'm reactive in a situation and I lose my peace, then why? What was it that made me do that? What was it?
Right.
What was going on in my life right now that I'm not dealing with? We talk about real life situations. We're both empty nesters. Okay. We talk about going, when you look at the room that they left behind and you're like, why couldn't they? When actually, I have to say, my daughter left a beautiful room. She did a great job. But it took a while. But we talk about the moments and when we lose our peace, because we want people to be real about the fact that you can't just think peace in your head.
I mean,
No.
I just can only talk from my experience, and it's a daily um, decision, to
Yes.
do things that
Yes.
help me find my peace. For me,
Yes.
therapy.
Yeah.
Therapy is one of
Yep.
the things that has been vital to me. My spiritual path, and that spiritual path involves a lot of tools.
Right.
It
Right.
involves
Right.
breath work. It involves a
Yes.
lot of
Right.
meditation and prayerful time. It
Right.
involves constantly rewriting, rewiring, kind of
Right.
reprogramming all the
Right.
old blueprints or coding from my
Right.
past, my childhood, my husband's suicide. It's a lot of work to say, I'm
It
going
is
to
a lot of
commit to
work.
being peaceful every day.
Exactly. It takes practice. So we give people in the book tools, practical tools.
Beautiful.
Like what I was writing this morning is, when we think about change and change happening to us, we're not made to have change come at a rapid speed.
Right.
Our bodies and our brains, we can't handle that. We go into fight, flight, or freeze. We all
Yeah.
do. What we're taught is a rhythm of healthy change takes time. We integrate it. We adapt. We think about it. We make it work for us. I mean, look at nature. Nature doesn't pop up all of a sudden. It grows over time. It evolves. A beautiful flower doesn't just pop out of nowhere.
No, and I think nature is one of our best teachers, exactly that. And
Exactly.
it's one of the
Yes.
places I went to over and over in my grief was I would run into, I love to hike and I love to be outside. It's
Mm,
always
mm,
better if I'm
mhm,
outside.
mhm.
But I learned that nature also helps bear our pain. I
It
would
does. Yes.
literally, when I would feel like I couldn't
Mhm,
take it any longer, would drive to this beautiful trail. It's not even 10 minutes from my house. And I would stand in the stream and I would just say, take it. You
mhm,
take it. Let it
mhm,
go back
mhm.
into the earth. Let it go into the trees. I can't even hold my pain any longer. And
Exactly.
somehow
Yep.
and I know I looked like a crazy woman. I was running down the trail, tears, standing in a stream when everybody else was walking by it. But it worked.
Mhm.
Nature really did
Yes.
help
It
me
does.
heal.
It does. It does. And there's research about how your body rhythms change, your heartbeat changes, it reduces stress. And I was telling a story today about when I was in New York City, I was just overwhelmed by the chaos and the
Mm.
crowds, and I needed centering, and I was like, where's nature? And I heard this voice inside say, look up, and there was a rainbow.
Oh my gosh. Beautiful.
And if I hadn't listened, I would have missed it. So,
Yeah, I love that.
so much
Listening,
about
listening.
so much about peace is listening to ourselves, listening to each other. I mean, we give all kinds of examples of, we call them peace points that people
Mhm.
can use to practically learn how to practice peace in all areas of their life.
I want to just make one little statement there and then I'll go forward a little bit. For me, listening is so important.
Mm,
Um, I'm sure you know of the wonderful poet, Vietnamese teacher, thinker, philosopher, Thich Nhat Hanh, and
mm.
he talked about generous listening. I think that's one of the most
Yes.
beautiful phrases, but that's also how we listen to ourselves. And to
Yes.
me, you talk a lot about spirit, which I love. Spirit whispers to us. Spirit doesn't
Yes.
jump up and down and scream and holler. So we have
Yes.
to listen to ourselves for that
Yes.
internal guidance to know
Yes.
what's bothering me, what's triggering me, why am I not peaceful?
Right.
And then
Exactly.
find the tools,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
One
Yes.
silly, maybe not silly question. So you and Elizabeth are both really powerful women, and you are both really big personalities, and you are both huge successes. Is it hard to come together? I mean, you're both alphas. How does that work?
But we're alphas from a different place.
Okay.
We come from a different, we balance each other beautifully. We're not coming at each other with our egos. We're coming at each other with our
Uh,
hearts. And
okay.
so we might have different ideas, but our hearts are always aligned. And so I have a blast with Elizabeth. I mean, Elizabeth's just a blast. But also there's this energy of this spiritual energy that just connects us in these ideas that we
Hmm.
bounce back and forth, but we always land in a middle place. So we're different enough that we balance. And it's really a huge blessing. It
Well,
really
that's a
is.
beautiful mutual honor and respect for another individual. And then you're putting out so much good in the world with that
Mhm.
collective,
Mm.
drive.
Mhm.
Um, I want to talk a little bit before we close about something you're doing that I just sit in such admiration and honor. It's the work that you're doing with Ukrainian women to help those who are traumatized by the war. Can you just open that up for me? Tell me what that looks like, what that means. Give me a
Sure.
story.
The story behind that is the day the Ukrainian war broke out. I was in prayer going, I'm a grief therapist. I want to help. Where can I be used? And it was a prayer. Not 2 seconds later, popped up on my computer. Someone was looking to support a Ukrainian group of psychologists who were women who were in the midst of the war, but providing support to the people involved in the war and impacted by the war. And I said, okay, I'm in. That was it. I
Hmm.
just knew that was the answer to my prayer. I was supposed to be there. Well, 3 years later, I'm still there. And
Yeah.
what these women have done, and we all saw the horrific
Yeah.
example of leaving Bucha. One of them was one of the last ones to go across the bridge. In the midst of all those changes that they went through, rapid fire change, they kept on their phones helping and supporting, providing emotional support to whoever needed it. Now they have a curriculum. They have online community. They have online counseling, individual and group. And we're now working on a project to have all of their work put on an app, so that whenever there is a war, a crisis, a humanitarian crisis, someone can just go to the app and this curriculum shows up. And the thing I'm most proud about is that the whole process that they put people through helps them hope versus hate.
That's powerful.
Yes.
So I want to backtrack. Just you said something, and I just have this visual. These women crossing the bridge, and they've got their phones. And when you say they kept their phones on to help anyone who needed help, the
Yeah.
way I'm translating that is that's
Yeah.
my therapist. That's my
Yeah.
therapist crossing the bridge. And she knows I'm back there and I'm hurting like hell and I'm terrified. And I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm going to live or die today.
Yeah.
And she's on
Exactly.
the phone with me as she's fleeing for
Yep.
her safety.
Exactly. They were in bomb shelters on the phone. They were in trains on the phone. They are still on the phone. They're still doing it via online and under really duress. They don't have any fight. They don't ask people to give them any money. They do it
So,
for free.
well, and that's remarkable, but I also understand
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole country is,
Right.
well,
Right.
um, what is your role with these women, with these other therapists and psychologists? And
Well, I'm their clinical advisor
oh,
and encourager.
wow. Well, we
I'm
all
their
need that.
encourager. Yes,
I'm calling you every morning at 5:30.
I
Hey, where's my courage?
yeah, I many times have said, "Okay, how are you doing? Let's talk it through. What's going on?" Because you can imagine, we think we have losses, but they look online every morning to see who's died.
Yeah.
They look to see if their house is still there. They look for things we can't even imagine.
Right.
And so I've learned so much about um, how to be with that kind of unimaginable grief
To
and
sit
encourage
alongside.
them,
Yeah.
and to
To
just
sit
and
alongside.
Jason from
Yeah.
chapter 1 in the book, he's the one that taught me that.
Oh,
He said, "Stand beside me and be my friend. Listen more than you speak."
listen more than you speak. And he
Listen
was
more than you
dying.
speak. Yep. Yep. And
And so
that's,
that's,
yes.
you're paying it
Yes.
forward. You're doing for them
Absolutely.
what he did, asked you to
Yes.
do.
Yep. He taught
Just,
me how to live, and I taught
mm,
him how to die.
oh, I just have one more question for you.
Sure.
It's just been a delightful 3 episodes with you. You've broken my heart over and over again and taught me a million things that now I have to go metabolize and I want to metabolize. Thank you. Um, I just look at the breadth of your life and this beautiful good work you're doing in the world. I mean, what you're doing with the Ukrainian women, this passion and this love and this courage that
Mhm.
just push into them and hold them up with. I look at all the rest of your life, your podcast, this new book coming out on peace, the book from last year, uplifting.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and then you go to the office every day and you're a master grief coach.
Right.
Is there
Yes.
anything that you still dream to do?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I knew you'd say that.
I
Give
want
me
to.
one.
I want to be at the UN.
Oh, okay. In what
I want to.
capacity?
I want to be at the UN. I want to see the UN do something to promote peace that I have something to do with.
And you know what, Dr. Katie Eastman? If I were to bet on it, you will be. Listen, one more time, 3 weeks in a row. I'm just honored. I'm honored to sit with you and to listen and to
Oh,
learn.
thank you, Teresa. I've loved every minute of this conversation. These points I learn every time, and there's nothing that gives me more joy than to tell the stories of these people in the book who inspired me, so they can inspire others.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we're doing here. Dr. Eastman,
Mhm.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being with us. Thank you. Oh, gosh, Dr. Eastman has taught us so much in the last 3 weeks, and I just come away filled up and challenged and, kind of just broken open, I think. Um, anyway, we'll be back next week with another podcast. And in the meantime, as always, I say take care, take good care, and take hope.